Today's news means some Canadians are getting closer to getting the COVID-19 vaccine in their arms. And no surprise, you have been filling our inboxes with questions. So tonight we are going to get you some answers from Dr. Susy Hota, an infectious diseases specialist. And Dr. Hota, let's just get right to the first one. This is from Patrick in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Some vaccines require 2 doses, other 1. If you get your first vaccine from a double dose one, and the next time it's not ready, or there isn't available, will they give you one from a different company? And is that okay or not?
So mix and matching vaccines, what do you think?
Yeah, so right now, the recommendation is not to interchange different types of vaccines for COVID-19. And the reason for that is we don't really know how that will affect the effectiveness of the vaccine. Also, if you got one vaccine and then a different one and developed an adverse event or a side effect from it, it might be difficult for us to know if that was due to the second vaccine that you got or because of some interaction between the 2 vaccines. That's something, not necessarily just attributed to that second vaccine. So lots of things to consider there.
But I guess, but the vaccines, they do have a shelf life though, right? So isn't it like entirely plausible that your first dose would be ready for you, but I don't know, maybe your second dose gets stuck in shipping, which is something that I think he was trying to allude to there.
Yeah, there are a lot of logistics behind how we're actually going to roll this out and implement it. And, people will get vaccination cards and wish to keep their immunization cards with them so they're at least aware of what they got the first time around. I think we're going to have to see how this all plays out because we do expect different types of vaccines to become available on sort of a rolling format and limited quantities at each time. So, I think that the goal is to try and keep with the same vaccine that you got with the first dose with your second dose, because that's truly how they've been studied at this point.
Right. Okay. Here's another question. This is from Mary in Mississauga, Ontario.
Since we are not familiar with Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, and we don't know the long-term side effects, we will be able to choose which vaccine we would like to be injected with.
And so, Dr. Hota, I feel like there are kind of 2 parts to that question. The first being the premise that we don't necessarily know if these vaccines are safe in the long term. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I did want to acknowledge that because it's an important thing that we're all, trying to consider. And really, whenever we have any new therapeutic or vaccine come onto the market, we don't truly have a good sense of what the long-term effects can be. And it's especially understandable that people would be concerned about that when we're dealing with completely novel types of vaccines coming onto the field. So that really speaks to how important it is for us to do what we call post-marketing surveillance, and that's continuous monitoring for side effects that can happen that may or may not be related to vaccines that Health Canada will monitor.
But if someone is so inclined or let's say particularly worried about specific vaccines, would they be able to choose which vaccine they get?
I suspect we won't have the luxury of doing that, at least in the early stages of getting our vaccines, mostly because we'll have limited quantities of each ones that arrive at different times. So we'll probably have to get whatever's available at that time. And that can be okay as long as there isn't a major difference in effectiveness in subgroups or overall effectiveness of the different vaccine candidates or safety concerns within certain groups. And when you think about it, when we get our flu shots every year, there are a number of different types of flu vaccines that are out there, and we don't often know which one we're getting, but we're getting one of those different options.
But that sort of raises a good question. Would folks necessarily know which vaccine they're getting, even if they don't get to choose which one they get?
They should, and that should be logged on their immunization card because of this issue of the multiple doses and the need to try and keep to the same type of vaccine as you received the first time.
All right, Dr. Susy Hota, good to get your answers to those questions. Thank you very much.
Welcome.